So the head of the DMV told me I will never drive again. And I said, "You're absolutely correct." Because that's when I learned about right to travel and what they're hiding from us on a daily basis. Now, understand if this is your first time here, this education information from your favorite non-belligerent, non-combatant treaty with the United States, Lord of Lovitica, private citizen, is just here to tell you about some of my experiences. You have rights and freedoms and liberties that you do not know about. Contained, guess where? The Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. You only get these? Nope. When you request them, when you demand them, when you are smart enough and competent to invoke them. Otherwise, you know where they go? On the shelf, because you have waived your rights as a national to operate a majority of your life as a U.S. citizen, which is a public legal person, separate and distinct from you, the actual living person. It is a mask that you wear when doing business and commerce in the public. Let's talk about the difference between driving and right to travel. Right to travel is operating your vehicle, yourself, and everything else, your own identification privately. You have that as a right. The federal and Supreme Courts have already ruled on it. Okay. And driving is actually a commercial term. So when you go from point A to point C, your home to your job, though you may not agree, that's actually considered pleasure. You're not doing any legal, commercial, for profit activities in your vehicle between the two, like you do if you're doing Uber or a professional driver. Nowadays, we just call it a driver. You can drive. You want to drive for Uber. See, they don't call it commercial driving in that way because when you're in it, you're just in it. What do they call a Brazilian nut in Brazil? Yeah, it's just a nut. So if you're in commerce already, and you've applied to be in commerce, you want to do commerce, guess what? They're not going to call it a commercial driver's license. It's just a driver's license. Do you see it? If you hang around black people, you don't hear us saying, "What's up, my black friend James?" amongst other black people. You don't hear white people going, "Hello, my Anglo-Saxon friend who's also white like me," because it's known in that group that you are what you are. You're in it. You don't have to restate the obvious. So let's take a look. Once again, the shout out goes out to the living in the private. They have some fire information. Now, this is not anything really new that you guys haven't heard from me. But after coming across their website and how they have everything put together, I wanted you guys to hear some of these things from other people. Okay. And these are going to include receipts like court cases. When you hear things like Kent versus Dulles 357 U.S. 116, that means it has been ruled on in the federal or Supreme Courts. That makes it law. The Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, federal court, Supreme Court, these are the last bits of what is truly, well, you could argue a little bit in there, but truly American. And that is superior law. It's lawful, actual law. What the states do, they have permission from the federal government to operate their little jammy jam, call themselves a government, but they're obviously not a superior government if they had to get permission from the federal government. Federal government is law. What the states are doing is legal business, for profit, commercial, commerce, dead entities, and when you contract with them or waive your rights, you're a member of theirs. Driving is a commercial term. So let's see what they have to say about that.
A private man or woman has the inherent and inviolable right to travel. The common law acknowledges that a private man or woman has the inborn right to travel the nation's roads without the requirement for a driver license or a registered vehicle. The right to travel is part of the liberty of which a citizen cannot be deprived without due process of law under the Fifth Amendment. This right was emerging as early as the Magna Carta. Kent v. Dulles, 357 U.S. 116, 1958. The right to travel is a well-established common right that does not owe its existence to the federal government. It is recognized by the courts as a natural right. Schachtman v. Dulles, 96 App. DC 287, 225 F2D 938, at 941. The use of the highway for the purpose of travel and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common fundamental right of which the public and individuals cannot rightfully be deprived. Chicago Motor Coach v. Chicago, 169 NE 221. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon either by carriage or by automobile is not a mere privilege which a city may prohibit or permit at will, but a common law right which he has under the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thompson v. Smith, 154 SE 579. No state government entity has the power to allow or deny passage on the highways, byways, nor waterways. Travel is not a privilege requiring licensing, vehicle registration, or forced insurances.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That means that the court, let's break this down for 2 seconds, real quick, like. So Chicago Coach Company took the city of Chicago to federal court to argue this out. And they ruled that no state government entity has the power to allow or deny passage on the highways, byways, nor waterways. Travel is not a privilege requiring a license, vehicle registration, or forced insurances. Now, that doesn't mean you can just rip your stuff off of your vehicle and just I'm in private now. I downloaded a piece of paper off the internet. I'm doing the right to travel. And though I love Netflix, screw whoever put on information about right to travel in a negative, condescending and way for that movie that you guys made. You guys are traitors. Any person in any office anywhere in the United States of America, including whoever puts the ads underneath my video through Wikipedia, you are a traitor. You are a traitor to the Constitution. You are a traitor to the United States of America. You are a traitor to freedoms and rights and liberties because you feel some type of way instead of researching the information. But don't worry. The truth will out. Oh, I'm sorry, it already has, because we've already been beating them in court. You think what the judge just got tired? You see my paperwork and goes, oh, I don't want to, I'm just tired. I'm just gonna let this person who we call, the S word, I'm just gonna let him. No, because we beat them by law with the law. And anybody who's against the law and freedoms, you are a traitor to the United States of America and Constitution and should be subject to all the penalties thereof in full. Let's get back.
Insurances. Chicago Coach Company v. City of Chicago, 337 IL 200, 169 NE 22. Complete freedom of the highways is so old and well established a blessing that we have forgotten the days of the robber barons and toll roads, and yet, under an act like this, arbitrarily administered, the highways may be completely monopolized. If, through lack of interest, the people submit, then they may look to see the most sacred of their liberties taken from them one, by more or less rapid encroachment. The prophetic words of Justice Tolman of the Supreme Court of Washington State. Robertson vs. Department of Public Works, 180 Wash 133, 147. There is no law or statute that requires a private motor-powered conveyance to be registered, nor any law or statute that requires a private man or woman to possess a driver license or insurance.
Now you have to understand here that the key words here is private. That's the opposite of public. In general, there is no law. What they can say is if you are a resident of theirs, which means a member. Are you a member of the public? Are you a resident, resident? Prove residency? Well, then you're saying you're one of them. Then that means you're not operating as a private person, a private vehicle, but a public person. You've resided. You've resident, residence.
Insurance. However, if you register a motor-powered conveyance, it becomes a vehicle, subject to all the commercial traffic codes, rules and regulations, and penalties. You become a commercial transport operator, involved in the transportation of goods or passengers for hire, compensation, or profit.
Thank you, Jackie Fig. May you rest in peace for the work that you've brought to us. This is why you can just take your driver's license and do Uber. You've been trained commercially, properly, and you have a license to do business in traffic. Traffic means commerce. It means the flow of business. They refer to it as a motor powered conveyance. But when you register it, it becomes a vehicle. Whoever owns the property or you can designate what the definition of it is. If I go to court and a police officer's like, well, he's in his motor vehicle, I'm in my private motor powered conveyance. You don't own my vehicle. How they get you is because your name that your parents gave you was given. It was then converted into a legal name and you registered your legal name with them as a resident, a resident. You resided and entered their jurisdiction as a member of theirs. When you did that, your vehicle in your same name, which is registered in public, you gave them permission to administrate over it and your name and everything under your name.
Profit. This is because a de jure public state has the delegated power of the private people to create, by legalization, fictional entities for the purpose of commerce, and therefore the state has a right and duty to regulate its corporate franchises when they are used on the public highways for commercial gain. In short, the state controls its creations.
And what you register to it.
Creations. Legalization, entry by contract into commerce, occurs primarily through registration, licensing, certification, securitization, and general deposit.
Have you heard these terms before? General deposit at the bank, securitization at the bank, certification, mortgages, birth certificates. These are contracts, and you're entering into commerce. You're on the public side.
When the public highways are made the place of business, the state has a right to regulate their use in the interest of safety and convenience of the public as well as the preservation of the highways. Thompson versus Smith, Supra. For while a citizen has the right to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon, that right does not extend to the use of the highways either in whole or in part, as a place for private gain. For the latter purpose, no person has a vested right to use the highways of the state, but is a privilege or a license which the legislature may grant or withhold at its discretion. Packard versus Banton, 44S, CT 256. We know of no inherent right in one to use the highways for commercial purposes. The highways are primarily for the use of the public, and in the interest of the public, the state may prohibit or regulate the use of the highways for gain. Robertson versus Department of Public Works, Supra. While the public state has the delegated power of the private people.
Hold up. So why can't you use the roads for private gain? Because those roads were put there by the blood, sweat, and tears and money, equity of the American people. And the American people, the private, are like, look, we don't want anybody using those roads that they're making tons of money off of us and not paying their fair share of repairing the road. So nobody can use it unless it's going to be done commercially. Now, of course, we both know that lots of people do use the roads out there for private gain, but they're operating so under the radar, the government can't see everybody, is what it is. But we're not condoning it. All we're saying is that we want to use it for a nonprofit and be left alone. Which, according to many people out there, I'm hearing the police officers are starting to have open conversations about this because there's thousands upon thousands of people doing this. Now, I will admit, and I will be on the police side for a moment in time and say, if I was looking at these things from a safety standpoint, I can see them not liking right to travel because you're more so anonymous when you're on the road. Okay, making it harder to follow or track people or whatever else. This is true. That would be my only one main, concern about right to travel. If I had to be honest, I'm always going to keep it honest with you guys. As a police officer, or I was going to be one, and I see a private plate, I'd be like, man, I can't scan that. Crap. I could wait till the person stops, parks, and then look at their VIN number because the VIN number is going to then pull up information on who owns the vehicle. Okay. But see, here's the thing that is your right. So, in one regard, it sucks because if somebody does have something going on, it makes it easier for the police officer to do his job. But in America, we also have the right to privacy. So, as long as you are not operating in any dangerous way, they cannot, by law, pull you over because you have a private plate. No plate, yes, because they could say, hey, just so you know, we're doing a public courtesy. Maybe your plate came off, maybe the vehicle's stolen, you know. But if you have a plate with the name of where your vehicle is registered to, it should be a private trust or it could be a foreign country or whatever you got going on, then they can see that through the DMV through your VIN. And when you are operating correctly, they will leave you alone. And if not, you sue them in the federal court because that's a deprivation of your rights. Now, of course, once again, you're going to have some people out there who are going to abuse this information, unfortunately. That's the part that sucks, and that's why they don't want me sharing these things with you. But I am not going to sit back and not allow my rights to be, or to allow my rights to be infringed upon because of a handful of people. It does, in fact, make their jobs a little bit harder. I will give them that. but that's the job. We have to be real about these things. You have rights and freedoms, and even now, with how things are, people are abusing it, abusing things in place. They're putting fake plates on. They're stealing other people's plates and putting them on there and doing what they're doing anyway. But that's why we have these the good ones out there, brave law enforcement out there. But they're not given all the information, and that's what's not fair. So many police officers come to me to do consults, to help them out with their various problems, or to know what's really going on, and whatever else. They bought files from me, whatever else. But the problem is that the system doesn't want them to know, but the system's not going to be able to hide this any longer. Almost all these things that are in darkness are coming to light because this is part of the information age, aka the Great Awakening. The wealthy, the elite, the fraternities, they know what I'm talking about. It's coming. It's here. It's just not in full effect. But the bell has been rung, and that which has been rung cannot be unheard. Let's get back to it. Any 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 time now.
People to create corporations and other legal fiction entities for the purpose of commerce, and a right and duty to preserve the safe conduct of the people upon the highways. The state does not have the power to convert the lawful right to travel freely upon the highways into a paid legal privilege through the imposition of legal fiction adhesion contract.
Now there's so much going on there that you average people, no offense, don't understand. But on a legal level, they use the word lawful right. This means constitutionally, the real law. You have a real right to travel freely upon the highways. They cannot convert that into a legal privilege. They have, but they cannot control everybody on the road. This is one of the reasons why I do this, so that good police officers out there don't get sued, because your commanding officer who knows exactly what's going on, your chief of police who knows exactly what's going on, your district attorney, your attorney generals know exactly what's going on, so you don't get sued. They are leaving you out there to get sued. You think your little $5,000 or $10,000 bond is going to protect you with a $500,000 lawsuit? Yeah, okay. Why don't you ask some of your senior officers about getting sued on your public and private side and how they've lost their houses and things? The government does not play when you refuse, remove, or demean a person's lawful right. Look, I'm not saying that this transition is necessarily going to be easy and comfortable for everybody, but it's on the way. I'm sorry, it's already here. Let's go.
Contracts. Generally, an adhesion contract is defined as a standardized contract form offered to consumers of goods and services on essentially a take-it-or-leave-it basis without affording the consumer a realistic opportunity to bargain, and under such conditions that the consumer cannot obtain the desired product or services except by acquiescing in the form contract. Pendergast vs. Sprint Nextel Corporation, 2010 U.S. Transport legislation governing vehicle registration and driver licensing. Converts a law. A private man or woman has the inherent and inviolable right to travel. The common law acknowledges that a private man or woman has the inborn right to travel the nation's roads without the requirement for a driver. 10 U.S. App, Lexus 79, 11th Circle 2010. Only by consenting to an adhesion contract does it become enforceable, for example a traffic ticket. Similarly, vehicle registration and driver license contracts are subject to one's consent to enter into commerce, which is an artificially created system. The origins of legal commerce are found in merchant shipping, for which merchants created their own paper-based system of administration, in which all ships were registered vessels in commerce, and disputes between registered vessels were resolved in administrative courts with a dock for the accused vessel. As maritime commerce expanded, monarchs, especially British, compelled by their debts to bankers and a desire for colonial conquests, added their naval forces to the pursuit of empire building. Consequently, the merchant's maritime jurisdiction, law merchant, became the Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, the international law of the sea. Today, all commerce occurs within the Foreign Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, and all registered forms of transport used in commerce such as ships, aircraft, and vehicles, function as vessels in commerce, as do all registered legal fiction entities, including corporations and artificial persons. The theater of commerce is a legal fiction aberration of the mind in which the participants act in legally prescribed roles, including a driver. Most people unwittingly contract into a commercial performance as a driver, a resident, a U.S. citizen, and so on, because of non-disclosure, deceit, or coercion by state officials, which can only be construed as fraud and the unjust enrichment of governmental agencies, ultimately serving the debt money system of bondage. The people never give up their liberties but under some delusion. Edmund Burke, 1784. The people, by legally contracting through registration and licensing, become subject to the policing powers of the incorporated government operating in commerce, but in the common law jurisdiction, the national and supreme law of the land, such contracts are only valid when they are entered into knowingly, intentionally, and voluntarily. Moreover, the common law right to travel freely and unpaid on the public highways without a vehicle registration or driver license contract, in the ordinary course of life and business, is an unalienable right that cannot be revoked by the state. Nor can the state convert that right into a privilege granted for a fee. The state cannot diminish rights of the people. Hurtado v. California, 110 U.S. 516. No state may convert a secured liberty into a privilege, and issue a license and fee for it. Murdoch v. Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105. If the state does convert a right into a privilege and issue a license and charge a fee for it, you can ignore the license and fee and engage in the right with impunity. Shuttleworth v. Birmingham, Alabama, 373 U.S. 262. Unless a private traveler causes harm to people or damage to property, a crime, on the public highways, or is evidently such a danger, there is no reasonable cause for interference by any governmental agency in their private affairs. Consider the legal definitions of the following terms: automobile. The term motor vehicle is different and broader than the word automobile.
This is why a cop will refer to it as a motor vehicle, because a motor vehicle is a commercial term. And if he can find your name in his computer system as being active and the owner of the vehicle and as a resident, then he can govern over you. He can only supersede that if you're doing a crime while operating in the private. If you're not and you have a private vehicle, it's an automobile. Legally. Oh, but Wolf, this is semantics. About a nickel for every time someone said that. No, it's called you're a moron and you don't understand the law and the legal merit and understanding behind the word from a legal perspective. There is a difference between what is legal and what is lawful. Lawful is real law. Legal means you can do it as long as you're not denying somebody their actual law and rights.
Automobile. City of Dayton v. DeBrosse, 62 Ohio App. 232.
So this tells you the city of Dayton was in a lawsuit with DeBrosse, and they defined the term. They said, hey, I'm using an automobile. Well, it's the same thing. They argued that no, a motor vehicle is different than the word automobile, but it's still a car, right? Yeah, because whoever owns the car and if it's registered or not makes a difference. If it's registered to the public, it's a motor vehicle. If it's recorded in private, then it's an automobile.
232. Automobile. The word automobile connotes a pleasure vehicle designed for the transportation of persons on highways. American Mutual Liability Insurance Company v. Chapu, 68.2 D 118, 12095 NH 200. Automobile. Automobile is an ordinary vehicle of pleasure and business. It is no more dangerous per se than a team of horses and a carriage, or a gun, or a sailboat, or a motor launch. Daly vs. Maxwell, 133 SW 351, 152 MO App. 415, Fielder vs. Davison, 77 esse 618, 139 GA 509, Farnsworth vs. Rampa Electric Company, 57 So. 233, 237. Automobile. A motor vehicle or automobile for hire is a motor vehicle, other than an automobile stage, used for the transportation of persons which remuneration is received. International Motor Transit Company vs. Seattle, 251 p. 120. Automobile. The definition of goods includes an automobile. Henson v. Government Employees Finance and Industrial Loan Corporation, 15 U.C.C. Rep. Serv. 1137, 257 Arc. 273, 516 S.W.2 D1, 1974.
Well, even back in 1974, they already ruled that an automobile is considered to be a good or goods. What is it? UCC 9-109, consumer goods. Your automobile falls in that under personal and private effects unless you register it. But check out what it says next.
1974. Note that when an automobile is used for commercial gain, it becomes a motor vehicle.
When an automobile, something private, is used for commercial gain, or in this case, just commerce, a commercial, they're assuming you're going to gain. So if it's used in anything commercial or you register it, it then becomes a motor vehicle.
Vehicle, because the purpose of its use determines its legal definition.
The purpose of its use determines its legal definition.
Definition. Also note that the legal definition of goods includes an automobile. Commerce. From L. Commercium trade, trafficking, from calmed together plus mercs, gen mercies, merchandise, C market. From commerce, pertaining to trade, meaning done for the sake of financial profit. Commodity, from commodite benefit, profit, from L. Commoditatum commerce. Intercourse by way of trade and traffic between different peoples or states and the citizens or inhabitants thereof, including not only the purchase, sale, and exchange of commodities, but also the instrumentalities and agencies by which it is promoted and the means and appliances by which it is carried on. One place to another, something that carries people or things from one place to another. Merriam-Webster Dictionary.
Okay, so now here's the things. They're saying this is the definition from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, which is a standard in America, but the courts and police use Black Law's dictionary. Two different dictionaries, same word, different meanings, different jurisdictions. I skipped through a lot of the conveyance and common law and commercial vehicle purposes. It's all pretty standard. Okay. Common law means private. Conveyance means that which carries you. Okay. So as we're getting down here to driver. Um, then they've got driving privilege. So let's see here. Well, we'll read through the ones here for driver though, because those are key.
Dictionary. Driver. One employed in conducting or operating a coach, carriage, wagon, or other vehicle.
The key word here for you guys to understand is the word employed. This means hired. This means for profit, for income. That's what makes it commercial.
Vehicle. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Driver. A person employed in the engagement or activity of operating or conducting a motor vehicle or passenger vehicle transporting persons or property for hire or compensation on the public highways. Hamilton's Dictionary of Commercial Terms, 3rd edition.
There it is. So that's one of the reasons we jumped to the DS11 passport. For those people who are familiar with that work over there that I do, is why I said we don't want to say that we're occupied or we're employed because that signifies that you're doing something under contract or orders. So we don't mark anything on the passport about being occupied or employed. Okay. So they go through the definitions of highway, what a license means, motor vehicle, of course, to register. To register means to make an entry in a public registry. Okay. So you're bringing it over to the public. Traffic, which means commerce and trade, transportation, removal of goods or persons from one place to another by a carrier. Traveler, one who passes from place to place, whether for pleasure, instruction, health, or business. In this case, would mean private business, really. Um, let's see. Then they kind of go on for. All right, so we're going to jump down to the ending here, which literally starts with the ending. Okay, hold on. Let's back up. There's a lot of information here. All right, a lot of information going on there. So first of all, ending a vehicle registration or driver's license contract by rescission. Most of them have a form. Sometimes they don't even know behind the counter that they have a form. I had one older sister. Oh, baby, you've been watching too many of them YouTube videos. We ain't got no driver's license uh rescission form. One lady in the back was like, "Oh yeah, here we do. Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, we got it. I've been here 16 years. What? Don't let them fool you, and don't let some of these people's stupidity get the best of you. Ask for a manager and ask to speak to the manager privately. Tell him you're a private citizen. He'll know what you're talking about. Some of them you may have to write your own form, create your own one, and get it notarized. Give them a copy, you a copy, send one copy to the state attorney general, maybe even one to the Department of Transportation. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to remove it. It just means that they're going to cancel it. But it's also then still yet put in like a pending state. So have a copy of your cancellation with you. Keep it in your travel binder. Your vehicle needs to be put into a private trust. I would suggest watching my 3 hour video on my YouTube channel. Um, it's in my live video feed on Right to Travel. You'll find it. James C. Lovett, Right to Travel. They sometimes will make it very difficult. And it says here, because the transportation industry provides incorporated governments, so all of them, with numerous revenue streams within an effective social control network, they share your information and they pay each other. It's a big circle jerk. Got you. got me. Got you both. No offense to people like circle jerks. I'm just using it as an example here. Um, so they don't want to get rid of your information. And there is a law called right to deletion that you can use to help try to force them to remove your information from the databases. However, if the government tells them, no, 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 you keep that, then they have to keep it. But that's okay because what we do is we update the information so that our old information is pushed out. And by using a private trust and a private trust name, they can essentially know who's owning it, which is the trust, and that you're operating it. But unless you're doing something criminal, you're out of their normal jurisdiction. Let's keep going. They'll understand that unless you're speeding or endangering public safety, they're not supposed to bother you or pull you over. It is a federal offense. This goes out to my police officers and my sheriffs. You're not off the hook either. You can be sued for that and lose a lot of money, even be arrested. Your bonds will help, but they will not completely protect you if you keep getting hit by multiple lawsuits. And here's the next problem. The more times you get hit with lawsuits and your bonds get hit, even if you have a shared one. Oh, yeah, I know about that too. Yes, you guys can have some have individual, some have a shared group um, insurance policy through what is it? What do you guys call it? Risk management, I believe. Yeah, I know about those two. They can't protect you forever. And it'll be harder for you to get a job in the future if you have all these things on you. And when everybody else's rates go up because of you ignoring the federal law and the Constitution, which most of you guys don't know about, other people ain't going to be so happy that you're making their rates go up. Don't forget to back the blue. Let's keep going. So herein lies the hard part because if you give them stuff, you are opening negotiations, but this officer is going to be like, well, you better give me something or I'm going to bust your window and I'm going to drag you out of there. I'm going to need backup. Yeah, I cut 17L 5. Yes, we've got a situation in progress. But here's the thing: you do not have to if you're a traveler in non-commercial capacity, unless you're doing a crime. If you're doing a crime or you're speeding, you're endangering public safety, then yes, you have to give them something. At the end of the day, guys, it's about being safe. So if they're going, when you speak to them, which is once again, some of this information to help you on the side of the road and what to do and what not to do is in my Right to Travel packet, blacksite32.com, badwolf.unincorporated.com. You can buy the packs on there to learn how you should and should not do things. But real quick, in this moment, do not operate as a belligerent or combatant. Tell them I will comply under duress and give it to them. You can also ask them, is this an order or are you asking me? If you're asking, I don't have to comply. If you're ordering me, that's kind of funny because by law, you can't if I'm private. I'm not a U.S. citizen in this moment. I'm operating in private capacity, non-commercial. And unless I've done a crime, what you're asking for doesn't apply. But don't be a dick. I don't see anybody whatsoever have any problems. So give them their information. And if you, or should you have to go to court and deal with whatever else, we can do either a court consultation or a basic consultation. I've got information packs that you guys can buy to custom to whatever your scenario was and will help you with your the event. No promises, no guarantees. Everybody moves differently, but there will be remedy if you guys do everything by the book. Let's keep going. Yes. Okay. Even for me, I have a video recorder in my vehicle and I've got my travel binder because I'm doing things by the legal and lawful book. As a private citizen with a private conveyance, not a U.S. citizen with a motor vehicle. I've already beaten them in court 3 times. Other people have won a whole lot more money. And by the way, you didn't send me any, so I guess enjoy your, you know, your victory. Do not go out there and provoke people. Do not resist and fight. Not when it's going to be something where your LIFE is in the balance. Do not do that. It's not what we're here to do. The person you are dealing with is either an a-hole or doesn't know the law or thinks that you are something that you may or may not be. Give them the opportunity to know who you are. You are not trying to hide anything. You're also not trying to contract. And if you've done everything correct, you can look at all my stuff. Nothing to hide here. But you're not going to disrespect me or hurt me. That's a whole different matter. Okay. Which is why then your commanding officer might need to be requested, because the law does support somebody who's doing things privately, and you will be held liable, anybody in law enforcement, if you do the wrong thing in law. So make sure you're doing things the correct way. And if you're not sure, you don't believe in any of this information, that's fine. I'm just a guy on YouTube who lives this and has been doing this over 10 years, the right to travel part, in a whole almost 40 now. But go and talk to your commanding officer. Go talk to the chief of police privately. Tell them you're stressing your concerns about such people who are doing this right to travel thing, and ask him privately. Watch him close the door, ask you to close the door. Yeah, the right to travel is a real thing. It's mostly by private citizens. Just let them go. How do I know this? Because I've already had police officers tell me this is what happened after I told them to go and do it. Remember, guys, police are not your enemy, but there are enemies within the police departments. I know about that too. And I know that a lot of you good officers don't report, though you should, the bad ones, because you're protecting the blue line. But then that makes you just as bad as them. Kind of like if you were at a P. Diddy party and seen what was happening to certain people and didn't say anything. The reason why darkness prevails is because good continues to sit. You don't stand up. And even for those officers, you guys can contact anonymously your internal investigations. Just saying. If you guys really believe in America and you really believe that you're here to uphold the law, then you are supposed to fight threats, domestic and foreign. That's all for now, guys. Once again, this is on Right to Travel. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Have a great day and an even better life.